Hello everybody and welcome to this virtual session titled Understanding Your Purpose and Why It Matters. Here at Primease we're delighted to be able to bring you this virtual seminar which I hope will start you thinking about what your real purpose is. What's your driving force? What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning? My name is Sarah Cave and I'm Head of Leadership here at Primease. I'm based in Harrogate in North Yorkshire in the UK, and like many of you, I'm guessing, I'm currently based from home during this really strange and odd time in our lives where we are all locked down because of the coronavirus. So this session really is all about getting you starting to think about purpose, but there's a couple of things to do before we can launch into the meat of the presentation. The first thing is you will need to have done your personal values assessment via the Barrett Values Centre. If you have a look on our website, the Primease website, where you found this presentation, you will see that there is a link there to the Barrett Values Centre, which will take you straight through to doing your PVA. That's nothing to worry about. All you need to do on that is to log in and to choose 10 words which call out to you on the list from the list of values that are on that particular assessment. This sounds really easy. In reality, it'll start you thinking. It's really hard just to choose 10 in my opinion, but have a go at it. It'll take you 5 or 10 minutes, and immediately you submit that, you will get an email with your personal values report. This is important because we're going to come back to that further down this presentation. The other thing you need to do is have a piece of paper, any piece of paper, just a blank piece of paper, and a pen in front of you. We'll probably need a couple of pieces of paper as we move through this presentation and this workshop. One of the things about this workshop is it's very interactive. So having a pen, maybe some coloured pencils and some paper available will be really helpful. And the third thing I would say is give yourself some time. You probably need about an hour to be able to work through this. That hour is not going to be about me talking, but as I said, it's going to be very interactive. So get yourselves comfortable, find a bit of space, put the children doing something exciting and distracting for them whilst you just spend a bit of me time concentrating on this presentation. So if all of that is in place, then we will begin. The quote that you see on the screen in front of you from Maya Angelou really strikes a chord with me as far as leadership goes. She says, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And I think this is really true for all leaders. We can lead successful companies, we can make great speeches, but actually if you don't make people feel good about themselves coming to work and achieving things, then what will your legacy be? I think the greatest thing we can do is to create fantastic places to work. And I know this quote really helped me in discovering my own purpose, which is all about helping leaders to empower others and to create fantastic places to work. I think this really calls to our purpose as well. Simon Sinek, another great leadership guru, somebody who I admire greatly and who I was lucky enough to see in London last year. I'm sure lots of you are very familiar with his golden circle theory. His theory says you can know what you do and you can know how you do it, but unless you know why you do what you do, it's very difficult to get people on board and to really understand what the driving purpose is. And so what Simon says is that you need to really start with your why. That may sound really obvious, but for a lot of us, it's really difficult to understand what is our driving purpose. What is it that makes us get out of bed in the morning? And more importantly, even if we have a bit of an inkling to that ourselves, how do we articulate that to our team? How do we tell people why we do what we do, why we lead in the way we lead, why we drive the performance of our organisations in the way that we do? If we can't articulate that, how do we expect people to get on board with it? So this presentation, this workshop is all about helping you to be able to find your own why and to be able to articulate that really clearly to the people around you. As a result of this presentation and this workshop, what you'll find is that you end up with a personal flag. This personal flag will allow you to summarise what it is you bring to your role at work or in life. What are the deep and special drivers that guide you in life or at work? It'll help you to also understand where you can stretch and grow. What is your potential for growth? And finally, what's your purpose? What's your why? So on the very first piece of blank paper that we asked you to take before the presentation started, what I'd like you to do is to draw a box with the 4 quadrants in it. Just a simple box. It doesn't have to look like a flag, just a 4-box grid. And then set it to one side. So the first job we need to do on this journey of discovery is to think about our life journey. All of the things, all of the events, the life events that have taken us to where we are now and made us the person we are today. You'll see in front of you that there is a graph. Along the bottom axis of the graph, there are a set of numbers, and these numbers represent the ages that this particular person was at when these events happened. And you'll see that the ages are from sort of mid-teens all the way up to 60, where this person is now. On the other axis, the upper axis, you will see that it says level of fulfillment or passion. So these are the things that are your highs and lows, if you like. You know, how good did you feel as a result of the event in your life? So what I'd like you to do in a moment is I'd like you to pause this recording and then complete the graph for yourself. Take one of your blank pieces of paper, draw the axes on it, and then think back along your life's journey. What's your earliest memory? What were the things that you achieved maybe in your early to mid-teens that made you feel great? What were the hurdles that you passed along the way? What were the dips? What were the challenges that happened? You know, was there illness? Was there unemployment? Was there failure at school? Was there difficulties in relationships? Were there fantastic new jobs? Was there ability to travel, having your children, relocating, getting promoted? All of those things that are the highs and lows of your life. And I'd just like you to roughly plot those at the different ages along your own personal axis, and you can choose the numbers on that lower axis to suit you. And then draw the line, the red line between the points that just show the ups and downs of your life. Okay, I'm going to put some further instructions on the screen in a moment, but hopefully that's quite clear, and you can now feel free to pause the presentation and get on with that for yourself. Have fun. So now you're back, I can assume that you have drawn your lifeline and you can see the ups and downs that are on there. What I'd like you to do now is again pause the presentation and answer the questions that are on the screen. So we're specifically thinking about your strengths. What I'd like you to do is to look at that graph that's in front of you and think about What were the strengths that you exhibited in each of the dips which allowed you to crawl out of that dip and get to your next peak? Some examples of these might be demonstrating resilience, being a really good communicator, being able to influence others and win them over, or perhaps just having a really positive attitude. It may be even that in the last couple of weeks when we've been in lockdown during this horrible period, that you have found some other examples of strengths that you have shown in order to be able to really get through this period and enjoy it and grow from it. It may be that you have a partner or a friend who you are with right now who you could talk to about the strengths that you think that you have. If you haven't got the opportunity to do that right now, that's not a problem. You can hold on to that thought, and maybe the next time you're speaking to a colleague or friend, you can have a conversation with them about the strengths that you think you've got, and just get them to add to that, to confirm that you're right, or to give you some more ideas about what the strengths that they see in you are. And once you have done all of that and you've got a list of maybe half a dozen of strengths, what I'd like you to do is turn back to that 4-grid matrix that we drew right at the beginning of this presentation, your personal flag, and just write the strengths that you have in the top left-hand quadrant of that flag. So feel free to pause the recording now and just reflect on the strengths that you have discovered during your life journey. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that little dip into recognising your strengths. It isn't something we're usually very good at individually, is it? To think about the things that we're really good at. But hopefully it gives you a real positive feeling, even though you may have wrestled with the concept. So we're now going to move on and we're going to start to think about your personal values. And for this, we're going to use your Barrett Values Assessment, your personal values assessment that you did prior to coming on this seminar. So before we get into your personal values on your personal values assessment report, it's important to understand what values are. So values really come from the beliefs that you hold. So these can be things that you've believed since you were a child, or that have become your beliefs or your doctrines or principles as you have grown up. These are the things that you hold true. Behaviours, on the other hand, are the outward manifestation of your beliefs. They're what other people see. And generally speaking, your behaviours, either consciously or unconsciously, will demonstrate your beliefs and your values. The third word on that slide, at the right-hand side, is culture. And culture is really a descriptor of communal behaviours. It's the way things get done around here. And it's fair to say that culture can be prevalent in teams or in organisations or in families even. So if you have got families around you at home, you'll probably be able to recognise that a lot of the culture, the way things that get done around here, actually line up quite well with the values that you have identified as your own. So let's now take a look at your own values assessment. If you haven't done this already, the link is on the screen for you to be able to complete your own personal values assessment. Hopefully most of you did this prior to coming on the call, but if not, then feel free to pause now and go and complete that. So on this slide, we're going to take a look at the 7 levels of consciousness which your personal values assessment is based upon. Within your report, you will find a diagram which looks a little bit like a bow tie standing on its end. And within that diagram, you will have a number of dots. And those dots represent the values that you selected from the assessment online. In the list underneath the bow tie, you'll see the values listed out. And next to each of those values, there is a number. And that number tells you which level on the bow tie that that particular value falls in. So I'm just going to walk you through what each of the levels mean, because I think if you understand what each of the levels mean, you'll understand possibly why you picked those particular values because they were important to you. What I would also say is that often values do change over time. You'll find that if you repeat this exercise in a year or two, that you probably have a few core values which haven't changed at all, but some of your values may have changed in that time. The other thing I would say is that it doesn't matter what the diagram looks like. It doesn't matter if all your values fall in the lower half of the diagram or in the upper half of the diagram. It's just a picture of where you are right now. And all of the values are equally important. So there is no good and bad or no right and wrong answer within this. So moving on to the diagram, the levels then represent different things, different parts of your life. The first level is survival. So this is about the ability to be able to be financially stable, be healthy, be able to defend yourself. So some of you will have dots within that level, others of you won't. Just because you don't have a dot doesn't mean to say that money doesn't matter to you, but it probably means that financially you're pretty stable. You haven't got to worry about paying the bills this month because you'd probably be okay. Second level is about relationships. This is about family and friendship and feeling like you belong. And again, some of you will have dots in this level and some of you won't. Doesn't matter, it's just telling you where you are right now. The third level then is about a sense of self-worth, self-esteem. And this is for people who, if you have a value falling in this is probably about you wanting to feel like you're doing well, you've got a pride in what you do, you have a positive self-image, and that's important to you right now. Stage 4 then is about transformation. This is about moving from a sense of self to something that's bigger than just you. And generally speaking, people need to have ticked off all of the needs in the lower part of the bow tie diagram before they can really start to move into transformation and the upper part of the diagram. So transformation is about continuous growth and development. It's about having courage to change. And it often feels uncomfortable when you are sitting in that transformation period. Levels 5 and 6 then are about internal cohesion, so finding meaning in existence in what you do, and also about making a difference in your community. So you can see that we're moving away from a sense of self and making sure that I'm okay and the people around me are okay, to a more holistic view of the world. In here you'll find authenticity, collaboration, empathy, mentoring, creativity. They all fall in levels 5 and 6. And finally, level 7, which is all about service to humanity. So this is really the service that sets apart your own needs and really thinks about how can you serve the global community in a better way. So this is about compassion, humility, thinking about future generations, wisdom. So yeah, lots of higher level personal values. And as I said earlier, the level that you currently sit at, and most of you will have a spread of values across lots of different levels, they just tell you where you are now. They don't make you a good person or a bad person, they just tell you where you are. If any of you have dots which are hollow in the middle, this is demonstrating a potentially limiting value. On the diagram that's on slide 11 in front of you, you will see that these are shown in red. So these can be values like arrogance, status, power, blame or jealousy, conflict, violence, greed, corruption. So just thinking about those, if those are your values, then perhaps having some time to reflect on those and to think about why they are valuable to you, why they are important to you, will really help you to think about how well those values are serving you in your current position. Okay, so I hope that gives you a bit of an insight now into the values diagram. The report that you received online gives you a load more detail. So please read through it and do the exercises within that report. It'll ask you to select your top 3 values. And given that you've already selected 10, getting down to 3, the 3 that are the most important to you, is quite tough, but well worth doing. What you will find when you understand what your top 3 values are is that when people go against those values or do something which rubs up the wrong way against those values, that it really annoys you, really presses your buttons, and maybe makes you behave in a way that isn't the way that you would wish to behave. Okay, so time to reflect on that. If you need, do press pause. Otherwise, let's move on and complete the next part of your personal flag. So on your personal flag, you need to put in the 3 of your top values in the bottom left-hand quadrant of that flag. So that's it, directly under the strengths, which you identified earlier. Now let's move on to your growth potential. The growth potential quadrant of your flag should be quite obvious to complete now. We've already looked at where your strengths are. By nature, that identifies as well where the areas for growth will be. They tend to be the things that get in the way of your strengths. You also now know your values, and again, the things that you have identified when you behave not as well as you would like tend to be your areas for growth. So I'll give you a personal example. One of my core values is integrity, and when somebody asks me to do something that doesn't quite line up with my sense of integrity, it really makes me want to be defensive and to react in a way that pushes that person away, that potentially starts an argument with that person and leaves me really entrenched in my position, in my opinion. That doesn't always serve me well. Far better is it when I set aside my initial response to that request and actually try to understand more about why I've been asked to do what I've been asked to do, with the thing that has sort of brushed me up the wrong way, that's made my hackles rise. So one of my growth potentials is to be able to ask great questions. So when I feel that I'm in a situation that I'm not entirely comfortable with, rather than going to the defensive straight away and potentially starting an argument, my growth potential is being able to step back, take a breath, ask questions, understand where that request is coming from and why that request is coming. And then I can make a more informed decision as to whether it's the right thing to do or whether it's still something that doesn't feel quite right to me. It also allows me then to have a further conversation which potentially could come up with a better solution to the problem. So it's kind of a win-win all round. Other places of growth potential, it might be around listening, it might be around understanding, it might be around not interrupting people in meetings. Can you tell that all this is coming from personal experience? I hope so. So just take a few minutes to think about what you've learned about yourself so far through this seminar, but also to think about what your growth potential might be. Sometimes it's hard to identify it for yourself, so jot some ideas down in that top right-hand quadrant of your flag and then check them out with either a friend or a family member or a colleague. So we've got to the good bit now. We've got to the final quadrant of your flag. Now, some of you may already know exactly what your why is, those of you who are ahead of the game here. However, most of us won't have got there at this point. So what I'd like you to do is just to take a moment to sit back in the chair that you're in, close your eyes and relax and feel comfortable. I'd like you to take some deep breaths in and out and just really relax. When you're feeling really relaxed, it's much easier to clear our minds. So as you're taking your breaths in and out, what I'd like you to do is just to acknowledge the thoughts that are passing through your mind and send them away. Continue to breathe in deeply and just be aware of yourself, how your body feels. Be aware of your breathing and completely relax. We've learned quite a lot about ourselves during this session. And in order to complete the final quadrant on our flag, we need to think about, what is it that you are most passionate about? What is it that sets your heart racing, that excites you, that you look forward to doing? What is your superhero power? Is it listening to others? Is it listening to your own intuition? Is it being able to set out a good argument? What is that superhero power that you bring every day to your life? And now thinking about the values that are important to you. How do you bring those values to your work and to your life? How do your behaviours honour those values? Thinking about the team that you lead or the team that you work with, how would other people describe you? How do they see you in terms of your values? Do you wear your values on your sleeve so that they know exactly what drives you? What would people say about you? If you could make a difference for anyone or anything, what would that difference be? Perhaps that's just changing one thing, or making one group of people's lives that bit easier. How does that connect to your passion? Now think about somebody who knows you really well. What would they say your why is? And once you have answered those questions, what I'd like you to do is, to the best of your ability, fill in the final quadrant of your personal flag. My why. I hope that by now most of you have managed to fill in that final quadrant. If not, then just think about what is it that helps you to really engage with the work that you do? Because that will be your why. When you really think about that driving purpose, that thing that's underneath the skin that you can't quite articulate yet, but you know it's your driving force, it's your passion, you should be able to think about a time when you were able to really use that passion to make a difference, to engage with the work that you are doing, to really change your career path, or to find what you wanted to do. It's a time when you connect with your why, it's a time that you really shine and that people notice. And so if you're still struggling with filling in that final square, then do take time to go and talk to those who know you well, maybe who've worked with you for a long time or who have known you from the past at a time when you really felt like you were doing what you were supposed to be doing in this world. So for me, those of you who know me will know that I used to be a bank manager. Oh my goodness, talk about a square peg in a round hole. I just didn't fit. And the only time I did fit in that role was when I was helping people to sort out their finances. You know, when I wasn't trying to pull loans in or make sure companies stayed on the road, but I was helping individuals really get to grips with how they were managing their money, making their lives work, ensuring that they were comfortable, etc., etc. Eventually, that led me down the road of becoming a coach. And at that point, I really knew that this is what I was supposed to be doing for the rest of my life, helping other people to access their whys, their inner ability, their inner potential. And in later years, that's led me to helping people to understand their leadership journey and helping others to be empowered in their careers. So that's very much my why. But it took me a long time to work it out, and I had a lot of help from other people in order to identify it. So my message really is to go and ask for help. If you can't identify it yourself, go and ask for help. So once you have identified your why and you have written it onto your personal flag is now complete. The final part of this journey then is to share this message. So my challenge to you is to go away and think about how you are going to tell other people what your driving passion is. What is your why? And I'd like you to take your mobile phone and either make a voice recording or video yourself articulating your why it is you do what you do, why it is you're passionate about the job that you're undertaking. If you're not passionate about the job you're undertaking, then what are you going to do about it? So what are the next steps? As I've already said, share this session with your team so they can work on understanding what their purpose is and finding their why. On our website, you'll find some other resources. The Prime Focus model at primeeast.com is really helpful in understanding how this can help your teams to become even better. And there's another free assessment on there, so you can do that individually or with your teams. I hope that you have enjoyed this journey. I hope that you have found it useful and insightful. Please do share with me your thoughts, your discoveries, and your journeys. I would be delighted to hear them. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.